Well, hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to, is this week 4?
Week 4, baby.
Week 4 of the
We're here.
Unmasked podcast. Again, as always, I'm one of your hosts, Spencer, alongside of Andy Driscoll.
What's going on, everybody?
You doing all right
Good to
today?
be back. Good to be here.
Is it though? I mean, yesterday was a rough
Well,
day for
yesterday was a rough day, dude, but I'm coming off a great week. And so I'm trying to, balance the scales out. So yesterday was brutal. The Bengals looked absolutely like trash, and make matters worse, it was to the Cleveland Browns,
I
bro.
know, dude. Bunch of elves.
A bunch of elves. Did you see
Bro,
Jamar Chase's
I laughed
comment after the
so
game?
hard. I laughed so hard just because I didn't watch it. Like I just read I saw like a picture with the
Right.
quote on it.
Yeah.
And I think reading it out loud to myself for the first time, just seeing a picture of him, I just made
No,
myself laugh because I just
it was
imagined
amazing.
him saying it.
Right. Right. For those that may not have seen it, Jamar Chase made some comments because they got this other logo now. That's, I don't know if it's an old logo
I think it's old,
or
yeah.
yeah, of the Cleveland Browns. They're like, it's like this elf, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Jamar Chase was, running his mouth, this last week about, playing some elves and this and this and that. So after the game, he's like, I'm just mad because I was talking a lot of stuff about playing some elves, and then we got beat by some elves. It's
It
so
was
it's
so
just,
good.
man,
I
it
love
was
that
rough,
dude
man.
though.
Dude, he's so good, man. And my boy T. Higgins, just man, 0 catches. I think he had 5
I have
targets.
Burrow and Higgins on my fantasy team.
Same.
Rough day.
Same. And then
It
in
was
my
a
other
rough day.
league, another league I'm in, I have Travis Kelsey, and I knew he
I
was going to be out, but I was on a golf trip, and I'm like, we're playing golf all day
so
on Thursday, and I'm like, dude, I need to get in here and do it, but I was in a different time zone, and
you missed it.
wasn't paying attention to that. So then when I went in to switch it, I thought I had time, and the game had already started, and so I'm like, well,
we
losing week 1 in that league.
so say I did the same exact thing. I wasn't on a golf trip, but
Yeah,
I just totally forgot to switch them out.
yeah,
And
bro.
so I
So it
had
sounds like our
Burrow,
teams are very
Higgins.
similar here, bro.
Yeah, I had him on. So I have Kelsey also on the separate league. So
Yeah.
it was a rough week for me. That's for rough
Yeah.
fantasy week for me.
Yeah, man. So, thankfully in one of my leagues, it's a keeper league, and 4 years ago, I guess when I started in there, I was able to grab Christian McCaffrey because he was coming off an injury and people didn't,
Right.
whatever. And then in the first year that I drafted in it, I had Tyreek Hill. So those have been my 2 keepers in that league so I won that league last year, and I have them both this year too. So I'm always going to keep them until one of them falls off.
We literally sounds like we have the same teams because I also
Yeah.
have Christian McCaffrey in on the team with Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
And dude, he went off this week.
Went off. And so did Tariq
Unbelievable.
Hill. Yeah,
I don't have Tyreek Hill, but
he went off. So,
it's all
hey,
right.
dude, great minds think alike, dude. I mean,
That's why we're here.
we know our stuff.
That's
We know
right.
our
That's
stuff.
why we're here.
But yeah, man, the Bengals looked really sad. But I'm not worried about it. We did this last year, and I think we had we lost our first 2 games. Now, if we lose to the Ravens next week, I'm going to be really, really sad. And I won't be panicked for the season, but that'll be tough, man. 2 teams back to back in our division.
Yeah.
Would be rough.
But what do you think though? This is this speculation of like, I mean, Burrow gets the biggest contract in NFL history.
Bad
And
timing.
then 3 days later
Bad timing.
has
So
probably
here's
the
the thing,
worst
man.
game of his life.
Like I don't want to get on my soapbox, but I'm gonna give some thoughts real quick that frustrate me. And one is the people talking about, I think it was in your neck of the woods. It was a reporter in Cincinnati came out and said something about Burrow being injury prone.
Yeah.
But the dude has not missed a game since he tore his ACL. Like he was out that whole season with a torn ACL, but since then, like he's not missed a game for an injury. Now, he had that appendectomy, so his appendix burst. I mean, that's not a football injury. That's just
a freak
stuff happens.
Random, yeah.
And then you've got, now the calf strain. and that wasn't cool. That was not anticipated, but that's like the dude's not injury prone. Like
Yeah.
you tear your ACL because you have a trash O line your rookie year, and dude comes forward on you as you plant to throw, and he,
Yeah.
a 300-pound guy
Yeah.
flying through the line hits you, right in your knee. You're gonna tear some stuff up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's one thing that frustrates me. The other take that frustrates me is, and this is my opinion and my thought, is we got to start playing our starters at least the last game of preseason,
Dude, see, absolutely.
for at least the first quarter. Like, this is 2 years in a row that we played zero starters.
Right.
Zero. Well, I don't know if we did on defense, or I think we played maybe a couple of linemen, but we've got to play our starters at least the first quarter of the last game, maybe the last 2 preseason games. Play them in the first quarter, or play them for just a couple series in the first quarter, but let them get some in-game reps, not practice, but actual reps in a game, because we look sloppy.
Yeah,
We
dude,
looked
it was bad.
terrible. And it was pouring down rain. You could see the ball slipping in Burrow's hands in the first, quarter. Then he put on the glove, and then it dried up a little bit, and he looked a little better. But that doesn't account for missed timing. When T.
No.
Higgins does a go route and was wide open, and Burrow throws it down into, thought he was going to turn around and curl. Like, that's all not game reps.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, you're right. Sloppy is a good word. It just looked, I love I love after in the post game press conference, the coach goes, Zach Taylor goes, the offense had some good things, right? But there's work to be improved. And then the reporters get to Joe Burrow and they go, so Coach Taylor said that the offense had some good things, and he goes, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's
It's
like,
just
nah,
like,
I'll have to watch film.
yeah, I don't
Yeah, I
think
saw
so.
that. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, a coach is going to have to say that. But I knew Burrow wouldn't. Burrow's a dog, man, and I'm not worried about him, dude. He is lights out in accuracy.
Right.
He's got an arm and a half. His football IQ is through the roof.
Yeah.
Our O line, is solid. He was rushed a lot. But again, a wet field makes a big difference for an offensive
Yeah.
line that's trying to step backwards and fend off
Right.
defensive guys that are coming full speed. Defense
Right.
has the upper hand in that on a wet field.
Yeah.
But you also have one of the best rushers in the league in Myles Garrett.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like, I thought that I wasn't discouraged with the line. I know that he didn't have a lot of time, but that was all.
I think it'll be
I don't
different.
know, man. I think we'll be fine. I'm not panicked. I'm not worried. I'm just frustrated.
Yeah.
And shout out to Brian and Aaron. Congratulations. You nasty, nasty Browns fan. You too, but you get this one, ride high for a week, because the Browns will be the Browns. I'm not worried. The Bengals will be the new Bengals. So we'll see y'all later in the season.
I will say, like, it's hard to give Cleveland chops, but or props, but like,
Dude,
from the
they look
get-go
good, man.
in the
They look good.
rain, dude. And
Well,
you even said, I think you're the one that texted me this yesterday. It was like, if you have Chubb in the backfield
yep.
in the rain, you're gonna win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just give him the ball.
Dude, and talking about another dude, he's a good dude also, man. But that guy, as much as I don't want to say it, dude, he's fun to watch, man. He runs so hard.
Yep.
And dude, he's such a great running back, man. So, shout out to him, man. And yeah. If I'm playing in a rain game and I can have Joe Mixon or Nick Chubb, give me Chubb all day long.
All day.
All day long.
Yep. No, I agree.
So, anyways.
Crazy. Well, all right. So let's quickly move on before we get to the main part of our day.
Yeah.
Tell me about your golf trip.
Golf trip was incredible, man. We had such a good time. We went down to Sweetens Cove. It's a little 9-hole course in like South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. So it's like 30 minutes from Chattanooga. Dude, it's such a sick course. It's beautiful. It's very difficult. It's just very unique. You know,
Yeah.
their whole thing is it's to me it's golf the way golf should be. There's the only two rules are play fast and don't impede on someone else having a good time.
Yeah.
The head pro out there said if you leave today and didn't have a good time, that's on you. That's your fault. So the weather was perfect, man. We had a great day. Um, we played 27 holes. So it was awesome. And
Do you
then
just go around?
yeah, we just played the 9 holes 3 times and we
Yeah.
played just kind of like straight up just twice, like, played 18, just with our own ball. And then the last 9, we broke off into teams and played a little scramble. We had 7 guys with us.
Oh, that's
So,
cool. That's awesome.
so you had a good time. And then stayed the night there and then drove little more than probably about 3/4 of the way back, to out by Mammoth Cave. And there's another 9-hole course. No, it's an 18-hole course, not 9-hole course, called Park Mammoth. And beautiful course, amazing as well. I hadn't played it before, so we played it on the way home. And so yeah, man, it was a great trip. I played pretty well. It was definitely around both of them, both places. I was all over the place. I'd get a double bogey, and then the next hole I'd birdie it, and
Yeah.
it was feast or famine for my game. But I was happy. I shot an 85 both days,
There you
which
go.
is pretty on par for me. So if I go below 85, it's a good day. If I go above 85, it's a bad day. So I was right there in the middle. So I'll take it.
Good. Well, that's fun,
So it
man.
was a
I'm
fun trip,
happy
man.
for
And
you.
then we went the day that last Tuesday I took Sawyer um to go see
That's right.
Dayseeker.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and for his first concert. So that was awesome. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw all those posts. But yeah, Dayseeker crushed it. So Silent Planet was amazing as well. Got to hang
Awesome.
out with my buddy Aaron. So he met us there in Indianapolis. He lives in Columbus.
That's awesome. Aaron's a
So
good
yeah,
guy.
dude, we had a great time, man. So it was a good week. So, like I said, I needed the Bengals to win to like really make it
Just cherry
on
on top.
point, but it didn't happen. So, but I'll take it,
Nah.
man. The week was a win.
Good. Good, good. All right. So let's get into our conversation for today. I forget who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody last week, just about like just frustrations with, okay, so you and I are pastors,
Right.
we pastor churches, we're Christians. And I was talking with a fellow believer who was frustrated with a friend of his and a fellow believing friend of his and their lack of grace for this non-believer. That was just the context of that
Sure.
conversation.
You have
So
a
I was
lot of
thinking
those
about
conversations.
what?
Do you find yourself having a lot of those kind of
All the time.
conversations?
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the
all the
time.
time.
So that's just a quick like backstory to the week. So I was thinking about it this week, and then interestingly enough, yesterday, I think it was on Instagram or somewhere, this quote came across my feed, and I've read or heard quotes like this before, but for whatever reason, just again in the context of the week, this one just sort of hit really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of wanted this to be maybe just the focus of the next few minutes for us, because I want to get your take.
Yeah.
So the quote goes, I want to be the reason people give God a try, not the reason people are turned away. I
Yeah.
want to be the reason people give God a try, not the reason people are turned away. And man, initial thoughts, like for me, this is everything. Like when
Yeah.
you look at like step one is in our introduction to the faith is accepting who Jesus is and what he did for us. Step two is like just discovering what that means for us, what that looks like for us. And then step three is you tell everybody you know about how good God is because of what he did for you. Like that's sort of the progression, at least in a very simplistic way,
Yeah.
the progression of our faith. And yet so many Christians get that last part wrong. And
100% wrong.
and and it's frustrating. Like I feel like even when you just look at the culture of the Christian church today, like um we're losing the battle as far as, gaining ground and Christian phrase, winning people to Christ
Yeah.
and evangelizing. And um as a whole, especially in America and in the Western church context, we're losing. And I believe a lot of that is because Christians don't do a very good job of representing Jesus.
For sure.
And we're good at accepting what he did for us and accepting the benefits and the blessings that come with relationship with Jesus, but we're not good at then giving that same grace and sharing those good things with the people around us.
Yeah.
And in many ways, we are uh, rightfully stereotyped as judgmental
Yep.
and hypocritical.
Hypocrites. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like we gotta stop. We gotta figure it out because we're losing. And it's hard to say, like, in the end, if we want to look the bright side, like in the end, we already know as believers we've won,
Right.
yet we've been called to be a part of a mission, continuing to win more and more people or get more and more people onto the winning side. And that's where we're struggling. So I just thought that this quote, like, I don't know, it just hit me hard this week. I want to be the
Yeah.
reason people give God a try, not the reason people are turned away. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I think for me personally, dude, that is, I love that quote. That is what I strive and try to base my entire ministry off of.
Yeah.
To be completely honest,
Yeah.
I grew up, and I mentioned this in the first podcast episode a little bit, in a very conservative independent Baptist church, and where it was all shame and blame.
Yeah.
And I I've seen so many people that I went to middle school, elementary, middle school, and high school with that professed at that time to be a Christian, to be a believer, and quickly after graduating walked away from the faith.
Mm.
Some walked into very messy lives. Some walked into major addictions. Some have actually passed away as a result of addiction. And it absolutely breaks my heart that there are people that have had encounters with Jesus and have had the opportunity to be in an environment where they should have been loved and encouraged and supported and given grace to, and had those opportunities, yet it drove them away.
Right.
It had the opposite effect. A lot of times we refer to those people that have left the church as the de-churched. And that is, like, for real, my heartbeat in ministry. Like, if I could sum up, like, what is my passion as a pastor, it's honestly for the de-churched,
Yeah.
because I don't blame them. I understand why. I mean, it's only by the grace of God I really feel that I am a pastor today.
Yeah.
I've experienced the judgment. I've experienced the hypocrisy. It's the reason that one of the reasons why I stepped out of ministry right out of Bible college.
Yeah.
Most people's trajectory is you go to Bible college and seminary, and then you graduate and you step out into a job in a church.
Right.
I stepped out of that saying, I never want to work in a church. I
Yeah.
never want to subject my family to this toxicity, or myself. I'd rather go
Yeah.
help people outside of the church in whatever they're going through. And I thank God that I went down that road, because I feel that I'm a better pastor today because I've experienced real life and real people outside the
Right.
church. But dude, it's an indictment on Christians. It's an indictment on the church that we have people that run from Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's not Jesus.
Right.
They're not. Most people, if you sat down and had a conversation, and I really believe this, they don't have issues with Jesus. They don't have issues with, they'll say God, but not really God. They have issues with Christians.
Yep.
And dude, that is sad. That
Yeah.
is an indictment on Christianity.
Right.
And it makes me sick, dude. Like I mean, I could talk all day long on this because it's really my passion. I've had so many examples. I was thinking about what, if we were going to talk about this kind of, real life personal examples we have. And dude, the floodgates just opened,
Yeah.
with, yep, this situation, this situation, this situation. But to go to scripture, one of the things that immediately makes me think of is in Luke 5, Jesus makes these, when he's asked by the Pharisees, who were the religious leaders, who were the, the best of the best, who were always
In the
questioning him,
church.
always trying to come at him. I mean, when you look in the New Testament, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Jesus never speaks out against anyone other than the religious elite.
Right.
And but they're asking them, like, why are you hanging out with sinners? Why are you hanging out with such scum? Why do you break bread with these people? Which was very personal in that day, to sit down and have a meal together.
Right.
And his answer was in verse 31, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I've come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners and need to repent.
Yeah.
And, I don't like to read. I'm not a big reader. I like to take in knowledge, so I listen to books, but I think I'm too ADHD to read.
I'm the same way, so you're good.
But I would, if I was ever to write a book, it would be on this topic. I actually have notes and some things, over the years that I've jotted down to start writing a book. But it would be based off this scripture, and it would be based on this conversation we're having today. Maybe I should say it, maybe I shouldn't, because I don't want anybody to steal it. But based off that scripture, the book would be called, Malpractice. That it's time for the church to be sued for malpractice.
Wow.
Because Jesus came for the sick.
Yeah.
For those that needed him, not those who, quote unquote, think they're righteous.
Right.
Yet, as Christians, we shun and push away and judge and are freaking hateful, hateful to people that don't know Jesus.
And I think the thing that frustrates, I love that, by the way.
Please don't nobody steal my book.
Maybe we need to cut that out of this so nobody steals it. But no, I think,
or if you're a writer, we can write together.
There you go.
Help me out. I'll throw out all my thoughts and you can put it in beautiful book form.
There you go. I think the thing that frustrates me, one of the things that frustrate me the most, is Christians often get frustrated at the actions, attitude of unbelievers because they aren't acting Christ-like. And my response is always, why would they? They don't know. They don't know the Jesus that you claim to know. They don't know the way he's called Christians to act. So why would they act that way?
Yeah.
Why are we judging? And the Bible says, so to clarify too, real quick, like when the Bible says not to judge, it's speaking to people that don't know better. We are called to hold one another as believers accountable. And that's why you and I are having this conversation now. Right. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
But it frustrates me so much when Christians get upset at the world around us because they aren't acting Christ-like. And it's like, why would they?
Why would they?
Why would we expect anything else?
How dare you not follow the scriptures and the way you're supposed to conduct yourself and live your life? Well, because I don't believe it.
Because I don't, exactly.
I don't ascribe to that. So why would I?
And one of the reasons, go ahead.
I was saying, the crazy part is at the same time, the people that say they believe it and ascribe to it, they don't live it.
Exactly. And that's what I was about to say. It's like, and a part of the reason I don't believe it is because of you. So Facts. It's like, you know what I mean? And I just feel like if we go ahead.
No, you're good. Good.
If we as Jesus followers, or people that claim to be Jesus followers, don't start actually following Jesus and living the way he's called us to live, We're going to continue to have the same wrestle.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think, like Jesus said himself that the world's going to continue to get harder, not easier, before he comes back.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're gonna get this right. I don't believe we are going to fully ever get this right.
Agreed.
And we are broken, and even as Christians, we are still broken, imperfect human beings. And so I understand that all of that is a part of the equation. But but we but we've been
No.
called to do so much better.
Yeah. And
And
nobody expect I don't think anyone expects us to be perfect.
no,
It's the problem is that we want to position ourselves and act like we're perfect and say that we're perfect when we're not. Like,
right,
I think someone who is not a believer would be drawn more to would give people, like in this quote, uh more of a reason to give God a try if a Christian would just say, yeah, I screwed that up.
yeah,
Or if a pastor said, yeah, I struggle with whatever it may be, and that's a struggle of mine. But
yeah,
too many Christians want to act as if they are perfect when they're
yeah,
not. And when
yeah,
they do screw up, they want to make an excuse for their flaw, as opposed to saying, I just messed up. Like, I'm
right,
not perfect. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to do this. That's why when I preach, man, a lot of times, I don't ever want to be an individual that someone at our church puts on a pedestal. Now,
right,
that doesn't mean I'm going to act stupid just for the sake of acting stupid. But if I have a problem and I have an issue, I'm not going to necessarily hide it.
yeah,
I mean, for the majority of my life, I'm a hothead at times.
mm,
I have a temper. I'll fly off the handle. Especially like early on in my life with sports. Especially when I was in college.
yeah,
And in my early 20s, man, I was just taking things way too serious, and I would lose my cool. Driving, man, I tend to have a little bit of road rage at times, and I've done some really dumb things. And
yeah,
instead of hiding that, if I'm preaching on controlling your anger, and I'm not going to use an example of somebody else, bro, I'm going to use an example of me.
right,
I mean, I told a story about driving on vacation in South Carolina, and someone cut me off that had been riding my tail, rode up beside me, honked their horn, and shaved my front bumper off. And then I finally got to get back in front of them, and I freaking flipped them off, like, all its glory. And and then my kids were a little younger, but old enough to know what I did. And like Amelia's like, oh, dad just flipped him off, gave him the finger. And then I'm like, immediately, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm such an idiot.
yeah,
Like, what
right,
kind of example am I? But I shared that story
right,
while preaching. And
right,
it's kind of a running joke now. And not that I'm like, I didn't say that to like try to be cool or look at me this and then, no, but
yeah,
just know that as your pastor, I don't have it all together.
right,
And if I continue to stay that way, then there's a problem. And that's something that I've worked on and that I
yeah,
take to Jesus a lot. And am seeking him to continue to change me and do the things that I need to do to change me.
yeah,
And thankfully it's gotten a lot better. I'm a lot more aware. But
yeah,
man, how cool would it be for a Christian to actually own their crap
yeah,
instead of acting like they're perfect and judging everybody else? That
yeah,
would draw more people to Jesus than me walking up to someone telling them change the way you live because you're sinful and you're a sinner and you're this or this or that. They're gonna be like, man, forget you. Look at
right,
you.
right. Yeah, this year, similar to, what you just shared, after dad passed, there was like well, I'm still in it, but there was especially initially, a lengthy season in which, I was just struggling, mentally, emotionally with my faith. And I actually preached a sermon on doubt and used myself as an example and how, um, just how difficult the season of working through the grief of my dad who just passed, who I felt was too young and was taken unexpectedly. And God heals people all the time. Why didn't he heal my dad? And, going through all that stuff. And those
Yeah.
questions and our humanity just lead to doubt. And so I'll preach that message and um shared the struggle. And probably one of the messages, one of my most like engaged with like messages. I got the most response from that message and people just appreciating uh the fact that I was real. Because I think,
Yeah.
like you said, like it starts this problem, while I believe um is, I'll go as far as to say, a disease in the church as a whole, starts often with the character at the top. And
Yeah.
we
Agree.
have too many pastors that are full of pride and arrogance, uh borderline, if not fully narcissistic. And
Yep.
um and when they're preaching uh, perfection, I'm living in perfection because of who I am in Jesus, when they're actually not
Yep.
uh perfect by any means, then you're going to have a bunch. All you're doing is discipling into your people this heart, this posture of arrogance and pride, that when faced with the chaos of the world around us, um they just see themselves above everybody else,
Yeah.
when Jesus's specific call, uh referenced again over and over again by Paul and other writers in the New Testament, was ultimate humility, putting
Yep.
others' needs before our own,
Yep.
seeing others as more significant than ourselves. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
uh one of the guys that was he's one of my closest friends, and he was on my leadership team when we were planting in downtown Cincinnati. His biggest thing was, and it's the way he lives his life, which is unbelievable. And it was his biggest like challenge to our leadership team when we were planting. How different would our community be if each and every one of us sitting around this table truly put others and saw others as more significant than our own selves?
Yep.
It would change everything. It
Yeah.
literally would
For
change
sure.
everything if the church could actually practice what it preaches
Yeah.
and see others' needs before their own, and saw others as more significant than themselves, which comes straight out of Philippians
Yeah.
2. It would change everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think, now don't get me wrong,
That
and
dude
you
was
you
Jody
alluded,
Gunler, by the way. I needed to shout him out. Jody Gunler. That was all him. Okay,
shout
go.
out. Um, and you alluded to this as well. And I just want to make it crystal clear that, I believe that those who are leading in the church should live above reproach, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
we can't just go run and gun and do whatever the heck we want and be like, I'm just a flawed person, just like everybody else. I mean,
Absolutely.
we're held to a higher standard.
We are.
But what I think is interesting is we like to hyper focus on maybe the areas that we do well in,
Yeah.
and then we shame everyone else that don't do well in that area.
Yeah.
Or we pick a handful of topics that we want to fire off on and tee off on,
Yeah.
and talk about this is wrong, don't do this, don't live this way. And all we're doing is just pushing people further away. And I think you're right. I mean, it doesn't mean we can't ever talk about, things that certain ways that we should live our life, things that we should avoid and not do. But man, I'm more on team, like, let's talk more about what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the church has, at least in my church experience in my 40 years, is phenomenal at talking about how we shouldn't live our lives.
Dude, we know what
But
we shouldn't do. We
I'm
don't know what
saying,
we should do.
right.
Yeah, that
So,
you're
like, how about
right.
we stop talking about don't do this, don't do this, don't do this? How about we
Right.
say, hey, we're called to help the needy, to take in the orphans and the widows, that we're to serve others, to love others.
Good. Yeah.
Um, I've had so many experiences where people that, may be, according to some people, living in sin, that it's like, well, they can't do this, or they shouldn't serve, or they shouldn't do this in the church. I'm like, why?
Hmm.
Like, why? They are wanting to serve other people. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, how are we caring for people? How are we loving people?
Yeah.
If we just are constantly at other people's throats, we have no voice, we have no influence.
Yeah.
We are actually called to love people. So, like, let's err on the side of love. That's
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've talked about a lot. When I get into a tough situation where I'm like, should I do this or should I not do this? Should I help this person or should this person? No, I'm going to err on the side of love,
Yeah.
because that makes so much more of an impact, because I do love that person.
Right.
And so let me love them, let me
Yeah.
encourage them. Let me be there for them. Let me support them. It's funny, we had, there was a situation that my wife was kind of in with a coworker, where she's, this was a long time ago, but her coworker is very, a little more conservative in some areas, and one of her best friends, um, came out that she was a lesbian, and that she was getting married to a woman, and she was just like, I can't go to her wedding because I can't
Mm.
support that. And my wife's like, we talked about it. I'm like, man, if I'm in that situation, regardless of, and I'm not saying one's right, one's not, or whatever, but I love that person. So why would I not celebrate with them in any way? And like, I'm not, saying I agree or dis. I mean, there's a lot of things that I go gas my friends up for stuff, and they might live lives that I don't agree with,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean I don't love them. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be a part of their life. Like,
Yeah.
if we just isolate everyone because we disagree on something, like, then what are we doing? All we're doing is pushing people further and further away.
I feel
And
like
we're giving them more of a reason to turn away from God than to come to him.
yeah, I feel like I mean, and that's a that's a tricky scenario and one that is often argued because, and I think I fall in this. You and I have talked about this, so I know we fall in the same area. The argument is how far do you go? Um, like how far do you engage with somebody that is doing something unbiblical? Without celebrating it and or encouraging it and or accepting it,
Yeah.
rather than my position is okay, if there was a gay wedding that I was invited to, I would never perform one as a pastor, but I would attend one, because my view of, how do I say this the right way? My desire would be to not lose relationship with that person, hoping that they would continue to see and be open to the discussions that I would have in the future, about my faith and about Jesus, and
Yeah.
about if I'm invited to something, um, and I say no, can't do that because uh, it's unbiblical, then they're immediately going to shut me out
Sure.
forever, probably.
Yeah.
And I would lose their friendship. I would lose their relationship. And then the flip side of that argument is, Jesus said, the world hates me and they're going to hate you. Like, get used to it, basically.
Sure.
So it's just, I mean, there's so much, but I
Yeah.
agree with you. And you and I aren't going to have the right answer or come to a
No,
biblical
but
solution right here in this podcast.
sure.
But I love what you said. Err on the side of love, I
Yeah.
think is at least in its simplicity, the right move.
Yeah. And I think too, I'm like, there are things that we believe. I mean, I'm confident enough to say this at this point in my life and my ministry, that there are things that I believe that Scripture says, that I believe to be true, that I might have wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there
Same.
was a professor. I don't even remember where it was. I heard this story. I don't even know who it was, but it's always stuck with me that, like, day one in this theology class, this professor stood up and was like, I'm going to teach you theology 101 to the best of my ability, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be wrong somewhere.
Hmm.
Where? I don't know,
Hmm.
but I'll probably be wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's the posture that I would love to see more pastors, more, Christian educators, take, because, do I want to be the person that digs my feet in the ground on an issue outside of what I believe to be a primary issue? There's some things that I believe that I'll hold firm to, that I will, that I believe are primary issues, but I think there's a lot of secondary issues that people can have a lot of conversation and can read scripture and interpret it different ways and see it
Yeah.
different ways, that I think I'm right, but I could be
Yeah.
wrong, and I need to be humble enough to say I could be wrong. And
Yeah.
if I am wrong in that situation, I'm going to err on the side of love and not come after somebody or
That's right.
disassociate with someone.
Yeah.
I know we've used, the example of, same-sex wedding, or, of things of that. And I know that gets really, really touchy in church conversations and churches,
Yeah.
and, whether you're affirming or non-affirming. But I mean, we had a situation many years ago where we had a woman that came to me and, day one of being at the church, asked if she was going to be welcome there because she was a lesbian, and her wife had just passed away, and her wife's family never approved of the lifestyle and totally rejected her. Her family, rejected her as well. So here she is. She lost her wife and she had nobody, dude. And my heart broke for her. And she's like,
Yeah.
I mean, first time meeting her, she's like, so what do you think? What do you believe about that? And I just said, what I believe about that is that I'm heartbroken for you. And I'm so sorry that you've gone through that. And I'm sorry that you've experienced that loss of your spouse. And you're welcome here. And we love
Yeah.
you. And we can talk more later. And she plugged into our church. She served on our worship team. And I have zero beef with that. And I know some people do. I
Yeah.
don't, because she was a person that was on her journey to discover Jesus. And that's what's most important in that moment. And I will always err on that side.
Yeah, dude. And I feel like so many, that's another good point as far as like allowing people that are struggling with whatever sin bent to to actually engage in service of the church in some capacity. Like if we're gonna, similar to, you know it's similar to the whole conversation on judgment or whatever, like if we're gonna say you can't serve because of this,
You're
um
disqualified.
you're disqualified to serve because of this, then why don't you go ahead and just disqualify everybody,
Everybody. Yeah.
because
I mean,
nobody is
100%.
actually right. Does that make
But
sense?
yeah, but in the church world, in today, we want to take certain sins
Yeah,
and
elevate
put
them.
them on this pedestal that you
Yeah.
can't associate, you can't be a part of it. And I
Yeah,
think that just gets on my freaking nerves. Like,
absolutely.
we
Pastor
have
should go ahead and step down because he's not
I mean,
qualified then.
yeah.
Yep.
If she was going to be disqualified for being on our worship team, then I should have been disqualified.
For flipping that
Because
person
I
off
have
in
anger
South
issues at
Carolina.
times, and I flip someone off.
Yep, there you go.
And you know what I'm saying? So, or what about, the guy in your church that's an alcoholic and is coming and is going to AA meetings and is fighting for sobriety, but he loves to serve as a greeter. Are we gonna say he can't
Why
greet?
would you, dude? And that's the thing that pisses
We
me
had a
off the
guy.
most, bro, about the church.
Yeah.
Is like, why would you not want that person in your body, surrounded by people that genuinely love him, walking with him
Yeah.
to sobriety, through
I,
sobriety, engaging in deeper relationship with
yep.
Jesus? Why is that not the goal? Why is that not our first thought? The first thought
Why? Why? Yeah.
is often, oh, that's messy. You have a
Exactly.
problem, and I don't know that I want to be a part of that. And I don't know that our church needs to be associated with you. And
Because
it's like, wrong. You
Yeah,
are
because a lot of churches want a country club. They want their nice little
exactly.
clean country club, and they don't want any problems. But the church
If
is a hospital. It's a
if
triage place.
if you would prefer your church to be a country club rather than a hospital, then you do not know the Jesus of the Bible.
100%, 100%, and it's hard. And it's interesting. I think that's why I go back kind of full circle to our conversation, I thank God that I didn't get the youth ministry job in freaking Delray Beach, Florida, that I applied for right out of my undergrad, because I never would have gotten to go actually work outside of the church with beautiful people that needed Jesus, to see
Yeah.
that they are incredible people. I would have been probably indoctrinated, staying in this little bubble. And the reality is, man, some of the greatest people that I know that serve, that actually live closer to the life of Jesus, aren't believers.
Yeah.
And I know that's really interesting to say, but like, they are kind, they're caring, they're serving, they have all these aspects of Jesus that I don't see in so many Christians. You
Yeah.
know, when I have to have a debate with someone on my leadership team, whether or not someone can, when we're having communion, whether they can stand up there and pray with somebody as they take communion because of the fact that they live with their girlfriend and they're not married. And I'm like, no, why can't he pray with somebody?
Yeah. That dude's
Why?
more committed to his girlfriend than you are to your wife. So I don't know what the
And what
problem
I,
is.
and what I said too, and this is where things, it's not always, this is where I get so frustrated, because things aren't just black and white. They're not simple.
Right.
Life
No.
is difficult, it's messy, and it's complex.
Right.
So in that situation, you have a guy who's living with his girlfriend, who's lived with her for 10 plus years. They have a couple kids together, and she's not a believer. And one of his heart breaks for her to come to know Jesus.
Right.
And so I asked this guy that was upset about me having him up there helping with communion. I said, what would you rather him do? I said, be honest. Would you rather him go to his girlfriend that he's lived with for 10 years with his kids and say, hey, I'm the only one that works in this family. I'm moving out. I'm taking your kids with, because I believe that I shouldn't live with you. Do you think that's going to move her closer to Jesus?
Right.
No. She's going to say, you just wrecked my life because of what you say this Bible says that I don't believe.
Yeah.
And it gets complicated, and it's tricky. But again, it's like, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, you just need to move out because the Bible indicates that. And
Yeah.
to me, I'm kind of like, yeah, there's a lot in that situation, but that's not my main focus.
Yeah.
And I know his situation. I've walked with him, and I've walked through the struggles that he's walked through. And it's kind of like, so I'm looking at, how do we best love her and help her to come to know Jesus? And it's not him bailing on the whole family. Like, that
Right.
makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
So, but again, I know it gets messy, but
It does. And it is messy. And I think that's a part of the struggle is like,
yeah,
again, like you and I can go hard at this and can be pretty judgmental at our own people. And I
yeah,
believe we have the right to do so. But but I do so with grace,
yeah,
recognizing that I too am in that I too get this wrong sometimes.
yeah.
And
Oh, sure.
I
Yeah,
am an imperfect human being, and I recognize that it is difficult, like
yeah.
because there a lot of these situations are messy, but I
They're
think
tricky, man.
they are tricky. But I think you're right, and I love what you said. Err on the side of love. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. That was Jesus's whole
Yeah.
ministry.
Read
He
read the
he
read the Gospels, man. Read the life of Jesus, and you're gonna see a life that if Christians modeled even just to the slightest, I agree with what you said. It would change your church, it would change your community, it would change your city, and it would change the world.
yeah
And I believe that
yeah
simply by how we love other people. But I
yeah
mean, shoot, dude, we don't even love our own people well. And I know we're kind of like, sounds like we're teeing off on them, and I get so passionate about it because I get so frustrated because I see all these people that I know, like personally, that are my friends that I do life with, that don't know Jesus, and their experiences with Christians has been tragic, man.
right
Like, I had a conversation with a friend just Saturday, and I know we're going long on this, but like, a friend Saturday that is not a believer. He's kind of just seeking out. He's not atheist, more kind of agnostic, doesn't know, and
yeah
you know, maybe open to it, maybe not. I don't know. But they're on their journey. He's on his journey, and that's fine. And we have another mutual friend that is a believer and very hardcore. And this person, a friend that I was talking to, has a daughter that's autistic, and that other person said, well, the reason your son or your daughter is the way she is because God is punishing you for how you raise your other
Oh my
children.
gosh.
And I'm surprised he didn't just haul off and punch this dude in the mouth, but I'm like,
I
they
might have
told
hauled
me
off
that,
and punched
dude.
that dude in the mouth if I was there.
Dude, I would have too. I said it's a good thing I wasn't there, because I would have went off, because that's so damaging. So when you say,
Yeah.
I want to be the reason people give God a try, not the reason people are turned away, that is pushing that individual further and further away. And I don't blame them, because if that's the only encounter that you have with a Christian who's supposed to be like Jesus, I wouldn't want to be a part of anything to do with that
either. Right.
Like, it's disgusting. It pisses me off. And all I can say is, I'm so sorry that you were treated that way. That is not Jesus.
Right.
That is not Jesus. That is not what the foundations of this faith is about.
Yeah.
Nor do I believe it works that way.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, there's so many times. I mean, I remember my wife has a heart condition. She had 4 heart surgeries, 2 in Miami and 2 in Louisville before she was 20. And we had a person in the church that said, this is probably because you have sin in your life. And I'm like, dude, F you. Like, sorry, but it's like that's crazy. That is crazy. And even if you believe that, keep that crap to yourself, because that's doing nothing to help a 16-year-old, 17-year-old girl that's about to fly to Miami to have a heart surgery.
Yeah.
Like, it's just toxic, man. And I'll get off my soapbox. We need like some type of like horn or button or something sound that Andy, step off your soapbox. But man, it does, because people Christians, quote unquote Christians, I'll say it that way, do so many things that are constantly pushing people away from Jesus in their quest to be self-righteous.
Right.
And it disgusts me.
Yeah.
And not that I know I'm wrong in other places. I know I'm not perfect, and I know I don't have all the right answers. But when I read scripture and the life of Jesus, and when I read scripture that God is love, I think it is disgusting to God as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
But anyways.
No, dude.
Man, let's be that, man. I know you and I both strive to be that way. And man, I hope every single person that listens to this podcast and in our churches and our network that claim to be a follower of Jesus will embrace this quote, that I want to be the reason people give God a try, and not the reason that they turn away.
Yeah.
And man, I hope and pray that's how we continue to model our ministries, our lives, and how we treat other people.
Yeah, that's it. It's a good ending. All right. So that was a lot. We hope,
sorry, y'all.
For those of you listening, we hope you're still here and engaged. We probably should have broken this up into 2
part
episodes.
2. Yeah, should have.
Maybe there will be a part 2 that's just as long.
Maybe. We should have known, man. We should have known.
I was like,
sorry.
I sent that to you, and I was like, dude, I feel like this would be a good thing to talk about. Like, we could have some good conversation. Probably wouldn't last as long as the other episodes have been.
Yeah, false.
I was wrong.
False.
But
hey, and if you all have any thoughts on that too, or
yeah.
you want to push back on anything that we've said, or
Please
add to that, definitely throw it in the comments and the chat on Spotify or YouTube. I would love to hear what you have to say and what you think. I'd love if you have another question surrounding that, or a thought that that could challenge us, because that's the other thing, to be humble in leadership. You have to be able to look at other people's thoughts and opinions, and we'd love to hear it, and have some conversation around that. So feel free to drop that.
For sure.
So we're going to
real fast too.
Go ahead.
One last thing, and I don't know why I keep saying things like this, but recognize too, this is like this is an incomplete conversation. Like, there was,
you
know what I mean? Like, so for those pastors, theological thinkers, other people out there that are listening to us being like, there's so much more to this conversation
Yeah.
that you're not touching. We know. We
We
get it.
know there is.
Yeah. This is a basic.
This is called the Unmasked podcast. And one of the ways that we want to approach this is we are not, and it's probably why that our conversations are lasting a lot longer than we want, but we are not like fully prepped up and studied on every topic. Like, to be honest, Spencer sent me this quote and said, let's talk about this. And we want to talk about it in a raw and authentic way. And that's what you just got. And so, yeah, you're 100% right. Good. It is incomplete. You could be wrong in areas, and we could misspeak in areas. And if you feel that you need to check us on that, check us on that. We're here for it, because we're trying to grow and learn as well. So, so we love y'all. Check us on it. That's fine. That's cool. We can handle it.
That's right. I think so. At least. So I sent you. All right, let's get out of here. But before we do, Unmasked reaction of the week. I sent you a video.
Unmasked reaction of the week.
Is that our thing?
No, I don't know. Right, there it is. There it is.
Unmasked reactions. All right, so I sent you a video.
Aaron listened to the podcast, and when we met up for the concert Tuesday, he had that like that noise, that horn, that like ready to go on his phone, and sat down at dinner before the show and was like, here, check this out, and hit it. I was like, oh, there it is.
And we need it. Send it.
He's like, hey, as a youth pastor, you got to have those things on deck. I'm like, thanks.
We need a youth pastor.
All right. So you sent me something from Preachers and Sneakers?
Yeah, that's where I saw it from. That's where I saw it.
So is it audio and video?
Yeah. So watch the. Yeah. So you watch it and put the audio up.
Let me move my mic down so we can have this and I can watch it.
And then you'll have to, after you listen to it, after we all listen to it, you'll have to explain it.
Okay. All right, here we go. I'm going.
You walk on.
Hang on, I gotta start it over. All right, here we go.
You walk on gold. It looks like this. See that gold? See on them shoes? Get a shot of this, boys.
So he's showing his shoes
Get
off
close.
right now.
Come on, man. Like I paid a fortune for them things. Suck in there, man.
This is a pastor.
See?
Oh, I'm buffering. Don't buffer.
So
some of y'all got that in your teeth. Okay. Gold is very, very expensive.
So it's a pastor, an old white dude with white hair, and he's up here talking about walking on gold. So I'm guessing in his message maybe he was talking about walking on streets of gold or something. I don't know.
Heaven.
I'm reading into it. But he walks back to the stage. He's in front of the stage, leans back, pulls up his little suit pant leg.
And this is showing. Okay, so hang on. He's an old dude, like, I don't know, 80. You want to say 80?
Yeah, that's fair.
At least for a good reference. And he's in like a pristine, like, preaching suit. Like he's got a suit and tie and real nice. And then he pulls up his pant leg. Go ahead.
Yeah, he pulls up his pant leg and he's got these white tennis shoes on, and they've got like this inch and a half gold like bar looking thing strap going across his shoelace. And he's talking about how expensive they were. And he's basically flexing on the congregation about how much he paid for these things.
Absolutely.
Like,
exactly what's going on.
So I'm going to go ahead and say I saw another video this week of that guy, not on this same account, but of this same
What's
preacher.
His name?
Oh, shoot. Where'd it go? Was it Jesse?
Oh, Duplantis.
Yeah, Jesse Duplantis.
Yeah. Dude's a trip, bro. Dude is, oh my gosh.
Preachers and Sneakers comment says, Pastor Jesse bringing the word.
Dude.
He's like, he pulls his pants leg up. He said, you see these? Get a shot of these. And the camera zooms in on it. He's like, you see that gold? Gold's expensive, y'all. You should have those in your teeth.
That's right.
But I saw this dude, man, and he was doing the same thing. He was like flexing on the congregation about how he's got the biggest house and wherever they're at, maybe like South Carolina, the most expensive house of any pastor in the world.
Gross,
and like,
dude.
but just like flexing on it, like about how much money he has compared to other people.
Again, that man does not know the
What?
Jesus of the Bible.
No, like, what are we doing?
Gotta
Like,
call it out.
dude, and that's a whole nother conversation, man. Like the whole preachers and sneakers thing. A lot of he took a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that account, basically what happened was, I guess this was, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. Has it been that long?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This dude started this account called Preachers and Sneakers. He was anonymous for a long time. No one knew who he was. And all he would do would take preachers that, like, from their Facebook or from Instagram or
yeah.
from their
The
sermons,
live stream or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And he would take a still shot picture of it and zero in on their shoes. And then he would post their shoes. And then above it, like in the same picture, would post those shoes, what they were going for.
How expensive
and,
they were. Yeah.
Like on the secondary market or whatever, $1,000, $2,000, $15,000 shoes. And just kind of was, and then make some little funny comment and just leave it out there. And dude, people went nuts. And both sides, you'd have people that were part of that person's church and be like, oh, well, they were gifted to them and they were this and they were this and this and that. And then other people who are not believers, like, this is why I don't want to go to church, because why would I give to a church? Because it's a nonprofit. Yet my guy's up here with a new pair of, Gucci shoes every week. He wears $5,000 or $2,000 shoes, a different pair every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Like,
yep. It's nuts, bro.
So
I just love
that
video. I've seen Jesse Duplantis before. But
dude,
I just loved. I wanted you
this old dude like leaning back and like
dude, crispy white hair.
And he's like, check these out. It's a flex, man.
Really nice suit, and then he just pulls up.
He's like, check these things out. Zero in on this. Lock in on this. Look at these babies.
Yo,
that's gold. You know how expensive gold is?
Yo, some of y'all got this in your teeth.
Bro, what is wrong with people, man? I don't know, man. This is where I'm like, man, if I wasn't a pastor and if I didn't really know Jesus and know what it's really about, dude, I'd be like, dude's a clown. I don't want to be a part of this.
Absolutely.
Dude, I think that all the time anyways. I'm like, dude, what's going on with these people? and to be fair, like, there are plenty of pastors that have nice things.
Yeah.
And I don't have beef with them having nice things. You're a sneakerhead and that's where you choose to spend your money. Go for it. Like, there's a lot of pastors that, so there's a pastor here in Louisville, and I don't know if this is true or not. It's one of the, a big mega church, huge mega church. And I think he takes the bare minimum salary that he could take. Yeah. Now he does incredibly well because he's an author. He's a speaker. He gets paid to go speak places. And that's where he makes his money. But he's like, as the church, like, don't pay me any more than you have to. Like, I don't need that. Yeah. And I got mad respect for that. Same. But dude, I mean, just because you're a pastor doesn't mean that you have to slum around.
No.
But at the same time, let's not flex.
Exactly. And I think that's the problem. And I think that's all the preachers and sneakers guy was.
Arrogance. It's arrogance.
Yeah. And I think that preachers and sneakers account, that's all he was doing. It was just like, let's just shed some light on the fact that,
and there's a cultural context to some of this stuff too. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a pastor in New York City and you're rocking, you kind of have to fit your culture.
That's true.
The context that you're in. Like, and not to be fake, now I'm not saying like, if you're not a sneaker guy and t-shirt, you like nice t-shirts or nice clothes or whatever, I'm not saying that you go out and do that, because people are going to sniff through that, man. They're going to see that you're fake or whatever. But if you like tennis shoes and you're in a prominent area where you got a lot of sneakerheads, rock some sneakers, man.
Right.
Like, I mean, I've got some nice shoes, and you could clip it out if you wanted to and be like, oh, look, Andy's got $120 dunks on. But I'm like, yeah,
dude, cool. Just wait till we get the Unmasked podcast Instagram going.
Right.
I'm gonna clip all your
clip those. Yeah, man. I mean, I got a pair of dunks. I got a couple pair of like Nike, like Air Max, Zooms or whatever that are like $120. And I got a couple pair of those. But what people don't realize is that's the only shoes I have. I have like 3 pairs of shoes, and some of them I've had for like 3 years because I try to take care of them. It's like, but so you could take, you could take a hot take on that. Like anything with social media, you take a clip, you pull it, you can say whatever you want to say about it, but there is a line. When you're saying you're not going to fly commercial, so you have, because there's demons on the plane, and so you need to buy a private jet, and you're asking the church to pay for your private jet, you got problems, bro.
Yep.
You're not doing this thing right.
Nope.
So
all right, homie. Well, that's good.
Give me my Southwest ticket. I don't need to pick my seat. I'll just wait like everybody else.
Spirit,
I'm just happy to fly, bro.
I can barely afford Spirit Airline. You're flying Southwest.
Shoot, yeah, you know what I'm saying. I'm big balling out here with Southwest.
I need to come to Louisville. Dude.
That's just because of Sky Miles, bro.
That's right. I wish Spirit had Sky Miles.
They probably do.
They probably do.
I don't know. I'm too afraid to fly. We flew Breeze Airway on the way back from where it was on a cruise once. We flew Southwest on the way there, but it was flying back the weekend of Thanksgiving and they were too expensive. So we flew Breeze Airways back. That was terrifying. Never again.
Bro.
Never again.
I flew to Florida and back round trip, Spirit Airlines, $49.
Hey.
I had to pay $400.
You got a deal at least.
I had to pay $400 for my bag, but
see that's the
round
thing,
trip
bro.
was 49.
That's what gets you, man. And you didn't get no free soft drink and some cookies or peanuts.
No, I had to
either,
pay for it. I had to pay for them. Yeah.
Did you pay for them?
$6 for a Coke, small one, small Coke.
You paid for that?
No, dude. Of course not.
I was gonna say, bro, I'll bring in my bottle of water.
Absolutely. All right,
take it through TSA though.
That's right. All right, man.
All right, bro.
Talk next week.
All right, man. It was good. Good as always. We'll see you guys later.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye. Out.